Using the FHA loan to buy a house isn't wrong or careless. It's just you're leaving money on the table, and I need you to know this. Most people use the FHA loan to buy a single family home and they call it a win. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. What they don't realize is they just spent their one most powerful investing tool on the lowest leverage outcome. Hear me out. That same loan program can help you acquire an income producing asset. It can eliminate the current cost of a roof over your head, whatever that may be, and it can forever change the trajectory of your money. That all sounds really crazy, I know. So before I show you, you have to unlearn one major myth about FHA loans. You might have heard people talk about the FHA loan like it's this first-time homebuyer program or first-time homebuyer assistance or something. And I think people do that because they both start with an F, but it's not. The FHA loan is a Federal Housing Administration loan, and here's what it means. It's not exclusively for first-time homebuyers. You can own other properties and still use the FHA loan. It's actually a really cool tool. Here's what you need to know. The FHA program is a federally insured program with inflated and flexible parameters designed to help more people qualify for a loan. What does that mean? It means it allows lower credit scores. It means it allows higher debt, and it'll still give you an approval. It's very forgiving. More importantly, it requires this much down payment to get into the property. That's 3.5%, sometimes 5%, just depends. That's it. That's 3.5% on any 1 to 4 unit building that fits within the loan limits. This is why I tell people, if you're coming to me with a blank slate, we're probably using the FHA loan first. It's the easiest one to get into and the hardest one to use later, because you can only have one FHA loan at a time outside of some specific circumstances. So you're gonna wanna deploy it strategically. And that's exactly what most people don't do. Instead, they buy a single family home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, maybe a little backyard. They put down their 3.5%, they sign the papers, and they move in. And once again, nothing wrong with that. But then reality sets in. That mortgage payment, 100% on you. Every single payment. If the monthly payment is $2,500, you got to earn at least $2,500 just to keep a roof over your head. And that doesn't account for all the expenses that come with maintenance and owning a home. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing inherently bad about buying a house. Home ownership builds equity, it's stable, it's safe, and lots of people need safe. But what if I told you that it doesn't have to be like this? Ask yourself this. If you didn't have a $2,500 home or rent payment to make every month, how much faster do you think you'd get to your goals? That's an extra 30 grand a year in your pocket if you rent, more if you own a home because of maintenance costs. This is what I wish someone would have told me years ago. The FHA loan doesn't just work on single family homes. It works on duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and the loan limits scale with each additional unit. So instead of buying a $400,000 house and being responsible for the entire mortgage payment, you could quite literally buy an $800,000 fourplex with the same 3.5% or 5% low down payment and be responsible for 0 of the payment. Let that land for a moment. Just sit in that for 1 second and really understand what I'm saying. You're buying an almost $1 million asset. You're putting down this much down payment and you get to claim the entire thing on your taxes. Like you get to do your taxes as if you own it. There is nothing better on this planet that will give you that kind of leverage on your money, and everyone has access to it. Now, all you need is a strategy. So take some notes, because I call this the leverage ladder. When you buy a property using a low down payment loan, you're required to live in one of the units. That's part of the rules, and that's a trade that you make. You live there for a year. The other 3 units cover your mortgage. In some markets, they'll even cover more than that, which means that that big looming $2,500 monthly housing payment for your roof that we spoke about earlier, could be your mortgage, could be your rent, is effectively gone. It no longer exists. You're no longer anchored to it, which also means you just freed up about $30,000 a year that you can now reallocate towards your future instead of just surviving the present. And this is where it starts to really compound. After that first year, you rinse and repeat using another low down payment option. If you can picture the ladder, this is the next step, or rung, if you will, on the leverage ladder. The unit you just lived in gets rented out as you move out, increasing your bottom line even further. The next loan program might be conventional, 5% down. It could be VA loan, which, by the way, you can use more than once and can be used for your whole life. There's multiple ways to sequence this depending on your situation. But the big picture is you're acquiring income producing assets with a little bit of money out of your pocket. Fast forward a few years, you've acquired 10 to 12 doors and a whole lot of extra income that you wouldn't have had in the past had you not done this. And now your passive income is quite literally helping you build a life that you don't need an escape from and repositions you from consumer to owner. Let me double back on that so you can hear that one more time. This is where you go from playing defense to playing offense. And don't worry, because it gets better. It's just a sequence of steps that can be followed in the same way you'd follow any checklist. You can reinvest that extra cash. You can close that gap between where you are and where you want to be long term, or you can trade that income on a monthly level for a family home. Not a stretch purchase, nothing crazy or something that keeps you up at night. I'm talking about the house. I know you can picture it. Your kids can skate down the street and you're not worried about it. You got a big yard for them to run around in and play without being in the street, being safe. The one with the garden and the fruit trees that your wife were talking about, the greenhouse, green grass all the way through, a kitchen where morning coffee is slow. People are having dinner around the table, right? That home, the kind of home where your kids feel rooted instead of pressured. And the entire payment is covered by the cash flow that you just spent the last few years building in your rental business, not covered by your paycheck. I want you to really let that sink in on how that would feel. Another angle. A few months ago before we bought this home, my wife and I were laying in bed and we were going over expenses and finances from the last month because it was a month where we just had a bunch of expenses that we did not plan for, did not anticipate for, like emergency stuff where it all piles up. The dog had emergency surgery, and I know there's at least one or two other things that were big picture that broke. Anyways, it costs a lot of money. We were like $5,000 in the hole. My wife's just like, man, we had this big month of expenses. We're like $5,000. And I'm just laying there. My heart kind of drops as any, I guess, husband or provider would be. And you're just kind of thinking of, well, like, man, that's going to be hard to crawl out of. She goes, oh, don't worry. Our cash flow covered it. And that moment hit me really hard because that's a safety net. That is what this strategy builds. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, well, I don't want to be a landlord. And I get it. Hollywood has made this really messy picture. They've depicted, landlords as slumlords dealing with leaky toilets at 2 a.m. in the morning. They've shown tenants banging on your door in the middle of the night. And I've been doing this for 10 years, and that's just not real. Can an emergency happen? Sure. But there are generally protocols. There are systems in place. You have expectations with your tenants. Everyone knows what to do in a moment like that. There's property management software you can get into. You're not sitting by your phone waiting for a disaster. That's just not real life. And honestly, living in your own fourplex is just like living anywhere else. This small inconvenience of being a landlord is really nothing compared to the impact it has on your life and your future self. Remember, you just eliminated your housing expense or the roof. You've got passive income flowing in and out of your account every month. This creates a safety net. So what does it take to actually use the FHA loan in this way? You're going to need a credit score of at least 580 for the 3.5% down option. Higher is better, but FHA is generally pretty forgiving. You'll need to show some stable income, generally 2 years of employment history, and that debt to income ratio will need to be within FHA's guidelines. Any loan officer can walk you through that. By the way, it's way more flexible than conventional loans. You'll also need to work with a realtor who understands this layer of mechanics and has the capacity to help guide you through each of these steps every single year. Major bonus points to them if they also have completed a similar process. Now, here's the kicker. Spoiler alert, not all realtors are cut from the same cloth. So make sure you get a referral from someone who's actually ran this play before, and this is going to be a big deal. The specifics are going to vary by region, so the best move is to connect with a local mortgage broker who understands this strategy. Not every lender thinks this way, so you're going to want to reach out, ask some questions, and find someone that can help map out the entire process, not just process a single transaction. Now, if you're sitting there wondering whether buying property even makes sense right now with rates where they are, with prices where they are, I actually broke down the full rent versus buy math in another video I'll put right here. I ran the numbers across multiple scenarios and the results might surprise you. I'll see you on that one.